We at the University of the Philippines Industrial Engineering Alumni Association welcome you to another session of the Imagineering webinar series, an initiative that we have designed to put a spotlight on issues that impact and affect us, with the hope that this will steer a healthy and productive discourse on how we can make things better. For it is in the very heart of industrial engineering that we seek ways how to solve problems, and in so doing, how we can improve lives. While we exist primarily to serve our UPIE alumni, we have thought it best to open this webinar to all stakeholders in this most important concern, the Philippine Recovery Roadmap. We are very fortunate to have invited the leading authority on this subject, who will share what we need to know about where we are, where we want to be, and how we can get there. As this is a forum to also exchange ideas, we would like to open minds to contribute on what we can do to help. God knows we need the best practical ideas that can be put into immediate action as we navigate the stormy seas we are in. In behalf of the UPIEAA, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at naway makabahagi ang umagang ito sa ikauunlad nating lahat. Mabuhay! At this point, I'd like to call on former UPIEAA board member, Dr. Jop Yap, to introduce our esteemed guest speaker this morning. Jop?
Thank you, Ricky. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our speaker obtained her undergraduate degree from the University of the Philippines Diliman School of Statistics and her PhD economics from La Trobe University in Australia. Among her major responsibilities is shepherding the formulation of the Philippine Development Plan. Presently, our speaker also chairs the recovery cluster under the National Task Force Against COVID-19. She also chairs the Technical Working Group on Anticipatory and Forward Planning and is a member of the Sub-Technical Working Group on Data Analytics under the Interagency Task Force on the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming NEDA Deputy Director General Rosemarie Edillon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Job, and many thanks for that very generous introduction. Nakakatakot naman na yun ang turning point. Anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad to be speaking with you on this very important topic. We really need to be engaging with a lot with our partners in the academe, in the private sector, in civil society, and yes, kasama mga estudyante. This is really about the roadmap to recovery. This is the outline of my presentation. So essentially, it's really about what we need to know so that we know what we can do. We really need, as mentioned earlier by Ricky, we need the best practical minds right now. Pakitulungan ho kaming lahat. I'll begin by how we started, not as far back as 2012 naman, 2016 kasi kukulangin tayo sa oras. And then on to the COVID-19, the Recharge PH, the vaccine deployment program, and then the updated PDP. So when we started in 2016, and this was even before President Duterte came into office, and this was actually back in 2015, but late 2015. So that time it was still RC Balisacan who was the secretary of the NEDA. Tapos ang DDG nun was Manny Esguerra, and then I was the ADG or the ASEC. So we were kind of reflecting kasi paalis na, no? Yeah. So sabi niya, so what would we have done differently? So I shared that I think ang nakita kong major shortcoming is that we tend to just focus on the medium term in terms of the development planning. So nakikita rin natin actually in terms of the GDP growth rate, meron talagang time na babagsak siya, especially during the first year of the administration kasi, learning the ropes, etc., etc. And sometimes walang continuity yun. What we lack is a vision. Actually, nagkaroon kami ng debate pa noon. No, we need the long-term plans. I go, no, we need the long-term vision. But anyway, so let me just start with that one. So we began by looking at the logo of the NEDA. So this is the logo of the NEDA. So at the center of the logo is yan, isang tao. Yan. And then you have all the arrows pointing to that tao. So kami, yung mga newbies at the NEDA, we interpreted this to mean, okay, sentro ang tao sa plano. At that time, this is the vision statement of the NEDA, that the NEDA aspires to be the premier socio-economic planning body, highly regarded in macroeconomic forecasting, policy research and analysis. So this one, we were we had the serious reservations about this vision statement kasi sabi ko, pang-academe to eh. You know, we are a planning agency, a development planning agency, so it has to be different. Ang dapat talaga is one, sentro ang tao sa plano. Okay, so if we're coming up with a long-term vision or a development plan, how do we go about it? So first we need to know, sabi ko, ano muna yung aspiration ng ating mga kababayan? First of all, it's a vision, it's not a plan. Okay? And my best illustration is, kunwari, itong damit na to. So the ladies would be able to identify. Anyway, so supposing I buy this red gown that is 3 sizes smaller. Yan. If I do not do anything and I just you know, look at this every day in my closet and then just say that, you know, one time after all this is over, we will have a grand ball and I will be wearing this. So it's 3 sizes smaller. If I do not do anything else, well, I think you will agree with me that you know, that will not happen. But what should I be doing in order to achieve this? So, well, I should exercise. I should go on a diet. And in fact, I have this African proverb actually that says, a vision without a plan is just a dream. Totoo, no? Minsan nga nightmare, no? And a plan without the vision is just drudgery. It's meaningless work. It's you know, day in, day out routine. Walang walang inspirasyon. And what we need is a vision with a plan. It's the one that can change the world. And so this is what we embarked on doing, which is, you know, let's have that vision. Let's find out what the vision is. So again, mahirap gawin to, no? So you can do this by, first of all, gathering all the visionaries, yan, mga eminent persons in the Philippines, doing mga focus group discussions. We did that as well, by the way. We did these things. But I firmly believe that it has to come from the people themselves. And so from this group of visionaries, the eminent persons and the FGDs, we formulated a nationwide survey. And that is what we did. We asked them, we all asked Filipinos, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what do you want to have? Now, Job would recognize that this is actually my son. Okay, nung bata pa siya. Anyway, so etong what Filipinos want to be and want to do, this is actually, this follows the Amartya Sen's definition of human development. Nasabi niya, human development is being able to be what you want to be and being able to do what you want to do. So we asked, medyo mahaba yung questionnaire na to, but roughly along these 3 themes of what Filipinos want to be, want to do, want to have, 25 years from that time that we did this. So we were doing this in 2015. So you might be asking yourself, why 25 years? 25 years kasi naisip namin, it's a realizable future. It's roughly a generation. So when we ask somebody, it could be in the form like, you know, when you get to be the age of your parents, yan. Would that be what you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have? Ano pa bang gusto mong, something like that, no? So yun ang that's the reason why we had this 25-year na horizon. And this is the summation of that life we want. Okay? Again, this is just ito na yung summary. Turns out that the Filipinos want to have matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay. They actually aspire for their family to be together. They have time with friends. They enjoy work-life balance and a strong sense of community. Even when we did the FGDs among the poor communities, urban or rural poor, nandun yung yung desire nila actually to be part of the community kasi they really feel left out. They want a comfortable lifestyle, maginhawa. Very, very few yung gusto ng very, very rich, maging very rich. Ang tingin namin nasa 3% lang siya. Many actually just want sa maginhawa na buhay, but ganito yung maginhawa nila. It's free from hunger and poverty, of course. They want a decent house with a secure long-term tenure. Okay? So not even, pwedeng rental, pero dapat medyo mahaba-haba ng konti yung, yung rental arrangement. Wag naman 1 year, 1 year. Okay? Good transport or mobility options, and then travel and vacation opportunities. But when we asked further, itong travel and vacation na to, mostly domestic ang gusto nila. Also at that time, there was a very aggressive campaign on domestic tourism. So we think that that would be the reason for this part here. Next, they want a panatag na buhay. They want enough resources for day-to-day needs and unexpected expenses. In fact, when we asked the urban poor, the rural poor community, so ano yung gusto mo maging 25 years from now, parang ganyan. Ang first reaction nila is really a blank stare. Parang, are you kidding? 25 years? Kasi they're really just concerned about tomorrow or the next meal. So it's really a big leap for them to have enough resources for day-to-day needs and unexpected expenses. Napakapanatag. Peace and security all over, a long and healthy life, and then comfortable retirement. And at the time that we did this, we looked at our baseline, very, very poor baseline. Especially at that time, no? Kunwari ito, itong matatag na to, at that time, grabe ang traffic natin, no? Me, I'm coming from Taytay, going to Pasig, 14 kilometers lang according to Waze. It takes me 2 hours, ibig sabihin 7 kph. Parang, ano ba to? Wala ka na talagang time with friends, with family, work-life balance. So we were coming from a very poor baseline. So anyway, the next thing we did was, change muna yung vision statement of the NEDA, where the vision statement is NEDA now envisions a country where public and private sectors perform their respective roles efficiently, such that people have equal access to opportunities, resulting in inclusive development and zero poverty. And the mission is now to formulate continuing, coordinated, and fully integrated socio-economic policies, plans, and programs to enable and empower every Filipino to enjoy a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay. So yan na yung And then of course, core values. And then we also translated the long-term vision into development goals, an agenda. Okay, ito yung naging agenda. This was a product of much brainstorming. That by 2040, the Philippines will be a prosperous, predominantly middle-class society where no one is poor, meaning inclusive growth. But we want a more elaborate definition of inclusive growth. Our peoples will live long and healthy lives, be smart and innovative, and live in a high-trust society. These are actually independent dimensions, but not really uncorrelated with each other. No? Kasi, kunwari, if you're rich, it doesn't necessarily mean that you live a long and healthy life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're smart, and nor does it necessarily mean that you live in a high trust society. So what this means for us is that we need to be able to come up with policies, programs, and projects along these 4 dimensions of development. So kunwari, inclusive prosperity. By 2040, ito na yung dream. Every Filipino living a comfortable life as per defined in the ambition. And for this PDP period, it's really about first expanding economic opportunities, increasing access to these opportunities, and reducing the vulnerability. So tingin namin yun ang dapat magawa kaagad. It would be foundational. Next, every Filipino enjoying at least 80 years of productive and comfortable life. Ang foundational agenda is to have efficient and effective healthcare systems, universal access to healthcare, and address malnutrition and stunting. Kasi kung bata pa lang, ano ka na, parang disadvantage ka na, then it's difficult for you to enjoy 80 years of productive and comfortable life. And so we looked also at the top 25 leading causes of morbidity and mortality in the Philippines. Many of these are actually because of poor lifestyle, yung iba poor nutrition, yon. So ang daming pwedeng ang daming kailangan gawin actually. For the smart and innovative, by 2040, we want Philippines to be considered as a globally competitive knowledge economy. We're hoping that by this third PDP, in 2029 to 2024, if not, well, this one, by the fourth, if not the third, that we will have produced a Nobel laureate, okay, in science, engineering, yeah. And for that to happen, again, foundational, is we need to expand access to education and lifelong learning. You know, have this lottery effect. Kung marami kang kabayo, pwedeng may manalo ka agad doon. Improve quality of education is important. Promote technology adoption and improve the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem. And these are actually those sectors that are akin to the ambition where we really need to increase the innovation so that the goods and services will be affordable, like housing, manufacturing, connectivity, nandiyan yan, education, tourism, agriculture, in particular biotech, etc. And then ito, Filipinos living in harmony with a shared identity, brimming with national pride. And ang foundational na objective, tingin namin, is for public institutions to be trusted, fair, effective, and efficient justice system, and then greater awareness of Philippine cultures. So, past 3 years, bakit siya nag-ano? Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I think it's under timing. Okay, so anyway, ito yung strategic framework of the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. So as you can see, it has those three pillars: malasakit, pagbabago, patuloy na pag-unlad. Okay, and then meron tayong tinatawag naming support beam, which is about strategic trade and fiscal policy, macro stability, competition, and then the different bedrock. Yan. Peace and security. Ito yung build, infrastructure development. And then itong mga to. Previous PDPs would actually only have this one, probably the pagbabago pillar and some of this bedrock. So it's only in this PDP where we have this pillar on the high trust society and the pillar on the globally competitive knowledge economy, which is about, you know, having faster growth going forward, even beyond this PDP. So these are the key reforms and programs that were enacted or either enacted into law or implemented during the past 3 years. Many of these have been, much awaited, a very, very radical na reforms, like the national ID. Nagsimula to time pa ni President Ramos noon. Rice tariffication law, mula pa nung unang panahon to pangarap gawin. So maraming mga reforms that were done pertaining to each foundational area in the PDP that we want to happen. Okay? And these are the outcomes in terms of the indicators that we were monitoring. Kung sa economic growth, may konting daplis dito sa 2018 and 2019. This 2018-2019, a combination of factors. One is external factors, very heightened protectionist tendencies in the advanced economies. That's one. And then number two, yung ating reenacted budget, okay, especially in 2019. But if you look at the poverty, mga socio-economic indicators, social indicator, sorry. Poverty incidence, ito yung target natin, 2018, we will be able to bring it down from 23.5 to between 17.3 and 19.3. We were able to bring it down to 16.7. Kunwari yung subsistence incidence from 9.1, it was down to 5.2. And this was in 2018. And this is actually the reason why whenever we are being asked, will we be meeting, let's say, MDG 1, which is about eradicating extreme poverty by 2030. So prior to COVID, our answer was really yes. Kasi we're looking at this, 5.2 in 2018. So ibig sabihin, we have 12 years to go going to 2030, and we need to, just reduce 5.2 percentage points, reduce it to 0 in 12 years. So very, very, tingin namin doable. Kahit na 1 percentage point per 2 years or per 3 years, actually, we will be, we will be eradicating extreme poverty by 2030. So HDI also, that was the first time that we were able to get to a high level HDI, and this was in 2019. Yun. Kasi ang cutoff is a 0.700. So yung dati natin na 0.699, that will not cut it. So dapat talaga lampas 0.7. Unemployment rate, this one, 2017, we had not so good unemployment rates. But the reason for this really is because this was the first time that we had the first year of the senior high school. That's one. And then nilibre natin yung tuition fee in the SUCs, and therefore there were a lot of the youth actually who opted to go to school rather than look for work. Yon. Kaya tumaas yung unemployment rate kasi mas malaki yung naging pagbaba nung denominator than the numerator. Okay, but in the next 2 years, then we actually met the target. Yun. So this is how we were, no? Entering 2020. We entered 2020 with a very strong position, strong economic growth. We were likely to become an upper middle income country pre-COVID. Although the target was really to be an upper middle income country by 2022. So, but we were expecting na pwede nating ma-accelerate yung timeline. And many other things, strong fiscal position, may build, highest ever credit rating. And then very importantly, yung mga social indicators was the lowest unemployment rate, lowest poverty incidence. So that was before COVID. Of course, meron ng COVID. Now, itong mga slides ko pertaining to COVID, many of these are preliminary. Ito yung sinasabi ko na please do not share. This one you can, no? Yung this was actually, we shared this to the IATF. As mentioned, I'm sharing the anticipatory and forward planning, and this was actually how we came up with what we call the PDITR strategies: prevent, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate. So this was an infectious disease, number one. Number two, this is a novel virus. Novel virus meaning walang effective treatment that is known pa at the time and actually until now. And then infectious disease, it's being transmitted through droplets, mostly by respiration. So we followed this diagram, adapted it a bit. So it begins with the seed. The seed is actually any COVID positive case, okay? Any COVID positive case, and then you have a susceptible individual. But now we know that everyone can actually be infected, bata, matanda, etc. Okay? May ngipin o wala. But now we know that those that have that are very vulnerable to the ill effects of this COVID-19, in fact, ultimo fatality, are those with comorbidities. Okay? So once this susceptible individual gets exposed, but then again, with respect to exposure, ang isang nakita natin na importante is really the viral load. Gaano karami yung na-ingest niya. So it's really, ang pinaka-dangerous talaga is if it's in a hospital setting. Okay? O kaya ang yun din yung direct contact na masyado kayong matagal na nagkaroon ng contact, even it's just a conversation, especially if you're not wearing a mask, then ang taas ng viral load nun. And then this ones, we know as well that it could be the people density and the ventilation, and that is what affects this viral load. So this exposed individual becomes infected. But the thing is, again, unique to this COVID-19 is that some infected individuals actually are undetected kasi asymptomatic sila. And because they are asymptomatic, they actually form part of the general population. Nasa seed pa rin sila. So kasama sila dito, dumadagdag sila sa seed. Now, some individuals, infected individuals, get detected. But the problem is they go into isolation, self-isolation, okay? Self-quarantine rather. Self-quarantine, and many of them break quarantine, okay? Some of them break quarantine. Then they also form part of the seed, okay? And then we also know that many of them actually recover, and that's probably why they are, they are still circulating among the general population. Now, there are those who have been detected. They get hospitalized or get admitted into to the facility. Some of them recover, but unfortunately, some of them also die. So, kung ganito yung and for those who recover, then it's your natural mortality and natality dynamic na. So, if this is the transmission, what do we now do? What should we do in order to prevent this transmission? Like I said, it's an infectious disease. Kung hindi mo ma-prevent yung stream of infections, then no matter how you build more and more hospitals, talagang kakainin yun. No? Kasi, in the end, your limiting factor will be your number of healthcare workers. Ganun. So talagang dapat you address it at its root, which is prevent the transmission. And so, ito yung reason why we had the mobility restrictions and the travel ban, kasi karamihan nito imported cases no? Alam naman natin na imported case siya. So we had that. And then we also had the crowd restrictions in order to reduce this viral load, introduce that people density. And then we had this health surveillance, tracing and testing, all these protocols, where the objective really is to be able to identify, detect all these infected individuals. Ma-reduce natin yung number of those asymptomatic na undetected. Okay? And then we have the isolation protocols. We have actually constructed many temporary isolation protocols. We have been using hotels actually as quarantine hotels then. Okay. Then there's the treatment, of course. And then most importantly, there's the civic engagement. Okay, kasi many of these things like the mobility restrictions and the crowd restrictions, and this one needs really the cooperation of everyone. No? Then you have the clinical trials. Okay, kasama na rin dito yung vaccine trials. And then we also have this epidemiological studies so that, we can understand this disease better. So this is actually the rationale for our prevent, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate protocols. So this one is largely the prevent part. This is the detect. This is the isolate. This is the treat, and then your reintegrate is kung magaling na siya. Okay, so this is the latest that we have. Okay, and I'm getting this from Faster. This is a software that we are using to analyze all this and actually get the data. This information is actually also reported by the DOH on a daily basis. So ito yung active cases natin ngayon. This is the highest we've had so far, 109,472. Okay, making the number of cumulative cases already at 702,856. Now, the thing to remember as well is that the mild and asymptomatic is actually at 97.7%. Okay? In fact, kung isasama mo pa dyan yung moderate, itong mga moderate cases, then you're looking at mga 98.1% ang mild asymptomatic and moderate. Many of these do not require hospitalization. Okay? Ang ating case fatality rate is still very low, 1.87. The global is actually at 2.2. Now, even though we have, as of now, madami ang mild and asymptomatic cases, what this actually means is parang ang directive that needs to be done right now is really to protect the most vulnerable from even catching this disease. So kaya bigla yung naging directive na hindi na naman pwedeng lumabas yung mga elderly natin and those with comorbidities and the young ones. Okay? So wag mo muna tong palabasin because we really need to protect the most vulnerable. For a lot, there's already the local transmission, but thankfully marami ang mild and asymptomatic. Ang gusto nating mabawasan talaga, ang maiwasan would be this one, the deaths. So that COVID statistics, and at the same time, yung ating mga ginawa na restrictions had very severe socioeconomic implications. So in terms of the GDP growth rate, you've seen this. So we had this minus 16.9 in Q2 nung nagkaroon tayo ng ECQ. Okay? And then Q3, medyo naging okay siya, minus 11.4. Q4, minus 8.3. Full year is minus 9.5. This is actually the slowest that we've had ever since we have started compiling the national income accounts. So I'm talking ever since 1946. Ito na yung pinakamababa. But if you look at the details, it will show the following. First of all, that there are quarter-on-quarter improvements even after taking out the seasonal factors. So if you look at the GDP, the deseasonalized GDP, Q4 is actually 5.6% higher than Q3 deseasonalized. So nakikita namin na merong improvement, remembering that we eased the restrictions. Ito yung number 2, that the economic improvements coincided with the easing of restrictions. So talagang ang key talaga is to be able to safely reopen the economy. Some sectors proved resilient amid the crisis. So food and beverage consumption, household utilities consumption, communication expenses. So this is on the household consumption side. Government expenditure, by design, we were implementing a counter-cyclical fiscal policy. And then financial intermediation, information, and communication also proved resilient, positive ang kanilang growth all throughout the quarters. Unemployment rate was also, of course, tinamaan ng husto, 17.7% in Q2. Improved a bit in July when we eased the restriction in June, naging 10 ito. And then October 8.7, January 2021 it's an 8.7, the same unemployment rate, but if you look at the numbers employed, mas mataas siya, and it's really because tumaas din yung labor force participation rate. Sorry. So again, my apologies for this one. Hindi na update yung link. Okay. But this is actually itong 42,543,000. Ito yung number employed in April 2020. This was in January 2020, April 2020, July, October, January 2021. So as you can see, from here to here, from January 2020 to April, that's about 10 million. Okay. But from this April 2020 to this one, okay, to this one, that's around 8 million. And in fact, ang parang kung ang magiging baseline natin is the January 2020 versus the January 2021, we're looking at 1.3 million. So yun na yung number of employed individuals that have not yet found work. So dito na tayo sa recharge pH. Mukhang na okay, kukulangan akong oras. Anyway, the recharge pH, the vaccine deployment is a very important part of the recharge pH. Okay, this is actually the National Task Force Against COVID-19. This is the organizational structure. There are 3 clusters: the response cluster, the vaccine cluster chaired by Sec Galvez, and then the recovery cluster. Ito yung sa NEDA. By the way, this one is supposed to be economic recovery, TG on economic recovery. Apologies for that. And under the vaccine cluster, you have so many task groups, 6 task groups in all. As you can see, it's interagency. Okay. These are the objectives of the vaccine deployment. Is to provide equitable access to that COVID immunization services. There's also the objective to increase demand for vaccination services kasi sayang naman yung supply, no? To ensure safety, especially for those who will be demonstrating adverse reactions, and then the governance, regulatory, financing, performance accountability measures. So this is the vaccine operations cluster, may national, regional, and then mayroong local. So each LGU actually, meron silang task force on the vaccine operations cluster. And that's it. Okay. So this is by the way, this is a part of the vaccine deployment plan. It's actually available on the website of the DOH. If you want more details. So ito ang target na by 2021, by the end of 2021, is that 70 million Filipinos will be vaccinated. And this consists of 63% of the total population. And then by 2022, so merong natitira pa dyan, okay, na 42 million kasama yung additional, and we think this would be yung mga younger age group kasi right now they are not they cannot be vaccinated kasi hindi pa na test yung vaccine for the younger age group. So they will be vaccinated next year, and then of course the year after. So yon. So this is really a big ask, no? Tong 70 million at the end of the year. So it really requires all of us and the best from all of us. We have not done this one. Okay? I think so far ang immunization program ng DOH mga nasa 1 million. Syempre meron din kasing private sector na, pero yung mismong government run immunization program is about 1 million a year. So this is malaking bagay ito. So they have actually come up with what they call phases, and it really depends on the supply of the vaccine. So phase 1 is you have potentially limited supply of the COVID-19 vaccine, and therefore the effort is to focus on critical populations based on risk of exposure and mortality. The phase 2, meron ka ng large number of vaccine doses. And so, pwede mo na yan sa general population, particularly the working population. And then phase 3, meron ka ng sufficient supply, and in fact, medyo regular na yung dating nitong mga to. And there could even be surplus of doses, in which case, to all populations na yan. And this is the timeline so far. No? Of course, this is subject to change. Okay, so for March, we have this is 3.5 million. Okay, so far we have 1.5 already. So we're hoping that by next week, dadating pa yung additional na 2 million. By April, we're expecting an additional 4. By May, additional 8. June, additional 10, and then 15, July, and then 2020 na. So, 20 million na onwards. So, meaning, ang talagang magiging massive rollout nito, yung talagang pwede na tayo magtuloy-tuloy ng rollout will be in quarter 2. Okay? So, from April, and then, of course, quarter 3 onwards. Yun na yung magiging rollout. So far, we have vaccinated over 500,000. Okay, So ito yung, remember that phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So sa phase 1 will be priority eligible A group. This is found in the DOH Department Memorandum Order 2021-0099. So A1, so we have always heard it say, no? A1, ito yung mga healthcare workers. Okay? And all those, kasama yung mga allied professions and those with clinical responsibilities, nursing aides, janitors, barangay health workers, basta talagang frontline sila. Okay. A2 would be the senior citizens, age 60 years old and above. Pero may ano din to, may caveat din to. Kasi so far, the Sinovac has been deemed na hindi siya advisable to be given to the senior citizens kasi hindi pa umabot dun yung clinical trial nila. So dapat maghihintay pa tayo ng other vaccine brands yan for the A2. A3 will be adults with comorbidities not otherwise included in A1 and A2. A4 would be frontline personnel in essential sectors, both public and private, okay, including the uniformed personnel. A5 would be the poor population, yung mga 4Ps natin. And then ito yung priority eligible B. B1 will be the teachers. B2, all other government workers, all other essential workers. B4, yung mga yung iba pa based again on the NHTSPR, mga poor population din to. B5 OFW, B6 other remaining workforce. Now just to inform you as well that this will still change, no, kasi may naging suggestion na itong B5 mukhang itataas sila to the A4. And then priority eligible C, so ito na yung nasa phase 3 na tayo ng vaccines, vaccine deployment would be the rest of the Filipino population. Yan. So this one, I'm sharing with you the A4 priority sector kasi ang recovery cluster ang nag-identify ng A4. So again, this list is still preliminary, no? So these are the following. Those economic sectors with high levels of interaction with or exposure to the public. So ibig sabihin yung trabaho nila talagang public facing and they cannot actually maintain a bubble. And then also the economic sectors that are needed to ensure security, consumer and work safety, and actually in doing their work, they also need to interact with the public in doing so. So this is still for finalization. So what will happen in the distribution? So first you have the priority groups. That's the first criteria. The second criteria is the geographic location by need and by capacity. Ito yung isa pang pag-uusapan din, no? Kasi our suggestion really is to begin with the geographic location bago yung criterion 2, of course after this A1, A2, A3. Yun. Kasi A1 talagang healthcare workers muna. Unahin na silang lahat. Okay. And then criterion 3 would be the sub-priority groups. Kasi tulad ng pinakita ko in the A4, you have the sub-priority groups. Yan. Now this one, hindi ko na siya i-discuss. I think you can, just to show you as well that meron tayong mga different vaccines. Some of them medyo maarte in terms of the cold storage that is needed. In particular, ang Pfizer, it requires a -70 degrees centigrade na storage. And so what will happen is from the vaccine distributor, it goes to the rented private warehouses and then it goes to the implementing units. Pwede rin kasi na yung vaccine distributor also goes to the implementing units kung merong cold facility yung implementing unit and then goes to the recipient. So ito yung magiging itsura ng vaccination site. Merong waiting area. Okay, the vaccination proper beginning with the registration, counseling and final consent, screening area, and then the vaccination area, and then a post-vaccination area. So ang tinitingnan is there will be mga at least 1 hour per person to. Coming from here up to the post-vaccination. Post-vaccination, mga 30 minutes kasi to. Yan. So, again, it looks nice on paper, no? So, kailangan nating i-pilot pa talaga, and then we'll see what will, numbers that can crop up. We're also ready to ibabas yung mga identified na recipients. So there will be a house-to-house social mobilization, pwede magkaroon ng pick-up points, and then going to the fixed point vaccination strategy. Yon. So again, on paper, ito na yung mga nakalagay. So again, you have that composite team of the vaccine team. So yon. So that's for the vaccine deployment. But of course, it has to, kaya importante din sa amin yung A4 kasi we think that it's also a key to restarting the economy. It will really begin in a big way, no? Yung ating economic recovery. So we have this, nice circle. Cycle actually, no? You have first of all yung expenditure, the demand side of the GDP, which is your consumption plus investment plus government spending plus your net exports, X minus M. During a crisis, then this consumption is down. Capital formation, of course, is also down. Net exports is also down because it's a global pandemic. So the only way that you can actually see some boost in the economy is by increasing the G, the government consumption. Ito na yung sinasabi namin na counter-cyclical fiscal policy. And when you increase government consumption, then it actually induces production in agriculture, industry, and services. Kunwari, relief distribution. Okay, mabigay tayo ng bigas, sardinas, at saka noodles. Yan. So, yung bigas and sardinas, so kailangan natin ng production from agriculture. It goes through processing, canning, okay, packaging, so sa industry yon, and then it has to be distributed, okay, from the warehouse to the LGU, for instance, and then distributed house to house. So meron ding magiging output ang services. So because of this one, then you're able to create jobs and actually increase income, household income. And because of that, then meron actually pambili ang mga tao. And we're hoping that that increased income will actually increase consumption. And then if that's sustained for a long time, then possibly pwede yung sundan na ng increased investments. And so you have this, this nice virtuous cycle between the demand and supply. But the big problem is, we have this threat of the COVID-19. And because of that, what we're seeing is that even though namigay ka na ng SAP, the Social Amelioration Program, we still are not seeing an increase in consumption kasi takot silang lumabas. Okay? There's also that very, very high precautionary motive of people. Now, this threat of COVID-19 is, of course, fueled by the statistics that we see of COVID-19 infections. And that's why we always say that even as we restart the economy, even as we are recovering, no, kailangan talaga, we recognize the primacy of addressing the health crisis. So addressing this one, okay? And when you look at this, then ito talaga yung the crowd restrictions, the mobility restrictions, and the travel ban. These are the ones that affect the economy. Yan. So it's really about being able to transition to the new normal. Ito yung general context of the new normal. First of all, physical distancing will still be observed, face covering required. Okay? There should be strict hygiene and sanitation protocols, more outdoor than indoor activities, sporadic lockdowns, hopefully targeted area lang. And then always remembering that COVID-19 threat will be foremost in the minds of individuals. So there's also that perception that you need to improve. This is the Recharge PH overall framework. So we always say that it's a whole of society approach. Okay? So dito sa first part, is, what we hope private sector will do to be able to contribute to this PDITR, the prevent, detect, isolate, pati yung reintegrate strategies. First is to practice minimum public health standards, participate in contact tracing and health surveillance, and then in the vaccination programs. But to be able to encourage private sector to do this, then the public sector needs to address the supply side issues and the affordability issues. Mga tipong PPEs, the masks, the hand sanitizer, the alcohol, the test kits, the contact tracing, the vaccine later on. There has to be clear guidelines, widely disseminated, effective and fair enforcement, and ensuring data privacy. Then I'll just jump to this part na. Now, in this economic recovery, we're also focusing yung aming gusto sana magkaroon ng expansion of businesses towards these four things: health systems improvement, digital transformation, food resiliency, and learning continuity. And that there will be service continuity towards safe mobility options, ecological integrity, and other social and economic activities. Okay. Well, kung meron na lang kayong tanong dito, that's just very quickly, just a few more slides on the updated PDP. And this is really going forward. Yung Recharge PH, we're hoping that the timeline will only be until June. And then afterwards, we can go on with the business of really building resiliency, having a healthy and resilient Philippines. So the big difference is that it's now about the new normal. It focuses on the new normal delivery of services, building resilience. It's about enacting the remaining reforms, but of course, keeping the long view. In terms of new normal, we want each agency in government and even LGUs to develop and establish a service continuity strategy. Okay? Sanay tayo actually sa mga natural calamities, pero hindi tayo sanay sa ganitong klaseng health pandemic. So we need to kumbaga COVID-proof our continuity strategy. Enhance the delivery mechanism to consider the new normal. We need to streamline processes, technology-enabled, as much as possible, make use of online platforms. And then innovative delivery mechanism, especially for social services. How do you do supplementary feeding under the new normal? Okay, how do you do monitoring of health status under the new normal? We need to support business transition to the new normal, and also the workforce to transition to the new normal. So we have identified the strategies for this. Then building resilience, again, maintaining the same four priority areas: health system improvement, food security and resiliency, learning continuity and digital transformation, and then regional development. Kasama na yung regional development through the Balik Probinsya, Bagong Pag-asa, para hindi na congested yung mga metropolitan areas natin. And then enact the remaining reforms. First is to ease the financial capital constraints resulting from the pandemic. Prior to this, we had the FIST that was enacted into law. That's the Financial Institution Strategic Transfer Law, na essentially, magkakaroon ng facility for banks to park muna their non-performing loans so that it doesn't affect their balance sheet, and hopefully it will reduce their risk aversion to be able to provide more credit. And then recently signed is the CREATE law that right away reduces the corporate income tax. For the large and the foreign, it will be from 30 to 25. For the MSMEs na hindi foreign, it will be from 30 to 20. Increase strategic investments, including FDIs. We are pushing for the amendments of the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, and of course, the Foreign Investment Act. To ease human capital constraints, we're really looking at improving the quality of education, and we think that a key strategy here is the greater internationalization, especially of higher education. Improve governance over the management of resources. We're talking about land and water. Governance over the environment. Again, we have already finished, actually NEDA, we have finished the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production back in December 2019. So medyo na-move yung implementation. Hopefully, towards the second half, masimulan na yun. Expanding market linkages for MSMEs, particularly those that are involved in the PPE ecosystem. Kasi kailangan ng certification, especially if you want a medical grade mask or PPE. Ang problema, yung mga PPE factories natin, manufacturers coming from Mindanao or Visayas, kailangan pa nilang ipadala dito sa DOST in Taguig ang kanilang materials for testing. So we want improving this one, expanding this network. And then of course keeping the long view. This is an aberration, sure, but we really need to recover quickly. Marami na talaga ang hurting, and it really hinges on how well we will be able to do that PDITR, the prevent, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate, and then how we can restart the economy in such a way that it helps. It contributes to the PDITR at the same time na nagsisimula na tayo ng ating recovery. All the while, going back to this one. After this, let's go back to the business of empowering and enabling every Filipino to enjoy this matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay. And that is all. Thank you for your time. Sorry I took too long.
Thank you very much, Rose. Rose, if you don't mind staying on, we have tons of questions that our participants have been sending in. And then we do have a few minutes to tackle this. So we'll do it Boy Abunda style, quick, rapid questions. But I just want to first state that I'm very happy to hear about Recharge PH. I mean, I think all of us should really be aware of this, that there is a plan. As Verna actually said, oh, may plano naman pala. This gives me hope. And for me, I think it starts with that, right? It's getting people to know and understand that there is. And I like the fact that you kept on repeating about protect, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate, because those are very important things. Let's start with the vaccines, kasi that's top of mind with a lot of people right now. We have a question here that says, because the plan was very impressive. It's nice to see that the 20 million vaccines every month starting August, targeting 63% of our population by the end of the year. But there's news in India that India might reduce the number of vaccines it will export given the surge of cases in their country. What happens if other countries who intend to supply the Philippines with vaccines do the same thing, which would then affect our supply in the second and third quarter?
Yes. Yeah,
can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Of course, I cannot really speak for India, but just to be again, just some level of comfort is that we are under negotiation. In fact, si Sec Galvez himself went to India, para magkaroon nitong face-to-face negotiation. At saka dito talaga papasok yung ating economic diplomacy. Kung hindi nyo napansin dun sa vaccine cluster, kasama talaga doon ang DFA natin, because we know that diplomacy will really play an important part in all this. We're hoping na, kasi tulad nung dati, nagkaroon ng nag-restrict ang India with respect to certain medicines. Pero parang umalma tayo, oops, and then they made an exception in our case. Also in the case of EU on AstraZeneca, 'di ba, naglabas ng pronouncement ang EU na kami muna, hindi muna yung ibang tao. And then again, credit to our diplomatic community. They always have alam nila ang kanilang TOR. So I think yun lang ang pwede kong sabihin diyan. The DFA is very much part of the discussion here. talagang tinitingnan namin kung pwedeng magkaroon ng agreement, in writing para okay, mag-restrict sila sa iba, tayo wag, parang ganyan.
Correct. So diplomacy is going to be key here.
Yes.
So hindi totoo yung chismis na requirement dapat guwaping ako para ma-vaccinate ako. No, I'm just joking. Two more quick questions, and to our participants, I apologize. I cannot ask all the questions that were posted. We will be sending all unanswered questions to Yusek Rose afterwards, so hopefully she'll find the time to be able to answer them. But there are several comments about the frontliners, the definition of the frontliners. There people are saying how about those working in telco and cable services, considering that internet connectivity is critical? Should they be considered part of the frontliners?
Yeah.
Quick reaction to that.
Our definition of frontliners are those public-facing and they really cannot maintain a bubble. Yon. Kasi pwede naman na you keep going to work, you keep seeing, yung mga co-workers mo, pero you can maintain the bubble. Yon. Right. So versus a jeepney driver na wala naman siyang, wala siyang choice sa kanyang bubble. Yan sa kanyang mga, the people he interacts with or yung mga market vendors. So yun ang distinction.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, Yusek Rose, I personally had that challenge when the lockdown started, because even if I could reopen my business, the challenge was my people could not get to work because there were a lot of restrictions in public transportation.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the things that we're all looking forward to with the bubble that was described for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully that makes movement a little easier.
Yeah.
Let's shift to the economy, because I think everybody's very, very interested about the economy. And I'll ask the $1,000,000 question. I don't know what you can answer here, but when do we go back to January 2020 status? What's the projected timeline for full recovery? If you look at your crystal ball.
Bolang kristal, no?
Because
si Job ang may bolang kristal. No, anyway. Anyway, if a lot hinges actually on how we will be able to manage 2021. Okay, so our target is that we will grow between 6.5% to 7.5%. We're aware na World Bank has already downgraded our growth potential, pero we think na it's still March, no? Kaya pa. A lot hinges also on the vaccine deployment. But given that, then since we will have the capacity, then we think we can allow for higher growth, even faster growth in 2022. So we expect na babalik tayo sa ating pre-COVID state by mga Q3 siguro of 2022. Yun.
Q3 2022.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a lot better than some other numbers that I heard recently. But quick reaction to this one. The World Bank chief economist for East Asia and the Pacific comment about the Philippines being the worst performer among the Southeast Asian economies in the current pandemic situation. You already mentioned the World Bank earlier. Can you just comment on that one?
Yeah. Medyo circuitous ang gagawin kong reply, no? Anyway.
Understandable.
Yesterday, I was asked what are the 3 lessons that you have learned from this. Number 1 is the importance of having a whole of society approach, but at the same time, the difficulty of having a whole of society approach. Okay. Especially, in a healthy democracy like ours, no? So, yung iba hindi ganun kaproblemado like China, Vietnam, yung mga ganun. So sa atin, so also in other advanced economies like the US, alam din natin in European countries na nagrereklamo sa mga restrictions. So it's really difficult because in the case of this COVID-19, you really need everybody working together. Yan. Na ang sabi ko nga, dapat lahat tayo mag-rally behind the goal of safely reopening the economy. Yun ang dapat maging goal natin. The second na lesson ko is that the healthcare system actually requires more than just the doctors and the nurses. We need epidemiologists and then the public health specialists, nakita namin from this experience na some regions actually do not have epidemiologists. Ang ating public health na college is only in UP, Manila. Okay?
Yep.
UP Visayas, wala. UP Mindanao, wala. So there needs to be one all over the country. Yon. So we also need the data scientists, the data analytics, lahat sila dapat kasama rin dito. And that yung health natin, kasi we have seen as well na yung the ones who are very vulnerable from COVID-19 are those with comorbidities. So parang dapat, okay, we should prevent people from developing comorbidities. But this means you have to start the healthcare investment mula pa noong unang panahon. Yun. So it will really take time. Third is that in terms of technology, sobra tayong napag-iwanan. Whether it's in the industry sector, it's in the agriculture sector. So nung bigla tayong, mobility restriction, you know, when we did the survey back in April of last year, only 12.4% of industries were able to implement work from home arrangements. All the rest, hindi talaga kayang umandar. So yun talaga ang I think that is the problem. If only we were able to go into this fourth industrial revolution kaagad, then we would not have been hit the hardest. Yun ang isang naging problema. Even in our healthcare, no, napaka-backward ng ating healthcare system, even just the data. So ito yung mga kailangan and these are also the reasons why I think naging matindi yung socio-economic impact sa atin.
Thank you for mentioning technology, because it's I think in the interview yesterday with Okta Research and ABS-CBN Digital Analytics, they were both pointing out that what was the cost, and thank you very much for highlighting earlier the reopening of the economy was not the cause for the spike in cases today. I think that's very important for a lot of us to realize and understand. What I appreciated with the Okta research yesterday is that they were saying where we failed the most and where we should really be doing a lot better is in contact tracing.
Yes.
And we haven't used technology. My gosh, we still have a lot of pen and paper. And how many, the last time I went out, or I risked going out, when I was signing in a Mercury drug, the guy that signed in before me was Robin Padilla.
Wow.
And I know Robin Padilla. No, Robin Padilla wasn't there. Somebody just signed the name as Robin Padilla. Unfortunately, that's what you see happening in this. I mean, people are not taking it seriously. So where is the government right now, IATF right now, in terms of contact tracing? Because we're supposed to have stay safe, but what's happening there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry. Can you answer that?
Yes and no. No, because hindi ko masyadong alam talaga kung ano nangyayari. But supposedly we started developing the stay safe. I mean, we started engaging with this private sector developer back in May last year.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So maaga pa talaga. Ang kaso nagkaroon ng maraming issues. One is with respect to the data privacy, maraming umalma, ganyan. And then right now ang naging problema din natin is the interoperability with so many other contact tracing apps of the other LGUs. And then supposedly March 22, ito na yung talagang turnover of the Stay Safe app. Kasi the way to address the data privacy issue is for the government to just handle the Stay Safe. Okay? So,
Exactly.
tanggalin sa private sector. Yon. Pero for that to happen, then kailangan i-turn over ni private sector yung mga codes, yung mga, all those things. Yun ang hindi pa kompleto.
Okay. Because the president of Multisys, the developer behind Stay Safe, was interviewed by CNN Philippines, and he actually said that he donated everything last October pa.
No.
So it's not true. That's not true. Okay.
Baka hindi pa yan baka confidential information pa yan. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But si Sec Carl actually already wants us, NEDA, to be involved in this contact tracing. So we'll see what we can do.
we have about 100 people in the room right now, and most of them are IE professionals or
Oh,
IE graduates,
yes,
and a
yes.
bulk of them are IE students right now. And I think the thought bubble on a lot of our audience heads right now is, okay, we're talking about technology. How can we help? What can we do to help?
Ito isang ano no kasi let's say really the big problem that we now have nang nakita rin namin no if we look at the models that we're using, these epidemiological models, we're seeing that we have data kasi on contact tracing, on isolation, ganyan. We do not really have data on the minimum health standards, the compliance to minimum health standards. So this one is only comes out as parang residual in our model. So if it cannot be explained with it, no, probably mababa kasi talaga. So ganun na lumalabas actually, mababa. And this is the data that we lack. Yun. So we don't know how technology can help. Meron nga nagsabi ng iba, yung sa mga CCTV, magkuha na ng picture, then tingnan ko sino yung mga naka-mask at hindi. I don't know if that can be done, or is there a more efficient way of coming up with this one? Kasi
just a follow-up.
Talaga yun eh.
Yeah. And just a follow-up on that one, because like countries like Singapore or South Korea have done an excellent job in terms of contact tracing. Have we ever considered reaching out to these governments and say, hey, can you share your contact tracing app with us? Because it's been shown to work.
Yeah. We will try again with the multisys.
No, because the Singapore system, because I have a lot of friends in Singapore.
Yeah.
It's actually proactive rather than reactive.
Yes.
Because
yes.
if you look at all contact tracing apps right now, it's reactive. Somebody gets reports that they're sick, then we trace who was there. The Singapore model is like Waze. If I'm planning to go to a pure gold supermarket, it can actually show me if there were incidences of positivity. Therefore, I will just avoid that area. So it's proactive in that sense.
And that is your stay safe.
Yes. There you go. That's what Stay Safe is supposed to do.
Yes. It's actually also supposed to be linked to the different RT-PCR labs.
Oh, okay.
Ganon
so that's what's missing.
High touch. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have Stay Safe on my phone, and right now it's really more in terms of registering when I'm entering a particular facility.
Correct.
Okay, so that's interesting. Maybe for our next webinar, we should get Stay Safe to present and talk to us about the details of Stay Safe.
So that's really where technology can help with respect to monitoring the minimum public health standards, and then the contact tracing. Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, okay, nice question here. How solid is the government behind the plans that you presented? Stakeholder buy-ins for plans are as much important as the plans themselves. Also, of course, implementation is another matter. So maybe can you comment on that?
Yeah, actually, this is the strategic framework of the recovery cluster, and yes, the IATF. This has been presented to the IATF, and na-aprobahan na ito. And we are actually following this for each and every task group in the recovery cluster. So may buy-in naman. So we have also presented this before the different regional development councils. So yung RDCs, as you know, is a mix of government and private sector. My private sector representatives dun eh. So yeah, they're also aware of this. Kaya lang kasi, actually na rin to eh. Nalagay na rin siya sa parang TV, kaso nga lang PTV4 yung aming media eh. So wala tayong nanonood.
Okay, so maybe that's where the private sector can help also in terms of proper information dissemination. Yes. Right? Because there's a good comment here. It would be great to have one of these with Yusex, Vergere, and Edillon presenting together with another one who is in the implementation, because we're seeing the information in silos. You both presented good plans on different occasions, but we don't see it as a single presentation.
Actually, yung kila Yusek Rosette, no? So she's part of the response cluster.
Yes.
Yeah, so response cluster, vaccine cluster, and then the recovery cluster. But we always meron kaming tinatawag na inter-cluster meetings. So we have it
Right.
every 2 weeks, yeah.
So maybe that's where the private sector can help, and you, Rose, maybe you can we'd love to volunteer helping put together an information rollout plan,
Sure.
taking advantage of social media, for example, because unfortunately, what's doing better right now in terms of social media are sometimes, mga shaw na information that
Yeah.
are unverified, unvalidated. So it's causing a lot of confusion.
Yes.
But I personally am very, very impressed with your Recharge PH slide, where you talked specifically about what public sector should and can do. So you already talked about the minimum public health standards, right? And contact tracing. How can we help with the vaccination program? How can the private sector help there?
Well, first of all, the information dissemination then, and then it will all actually siguro kapag pag finalize na yung list, then it will help for people to know about this and be able to plan kailan kaya sila pupunta, kailan sila magkakaroon ng vaccine para parang something to look forward to, but at the same time temper the expectation. So for instance, with respect to this A4, given the nakikita naming pagdating ng vaccine, so we're thinking A4 will be sometime May or June, kasi may naging request na but yung B1, yung teachers, but nasa B1, why not in A4? So sabi ko, well, actually the difference between in terms of timing, mga tipong 2 or 3 weeks lang naman yon. Yung mga ganyang klase ba?
So that's the view that we don't see as well.
Yeah.
We see the A, B, C, but we don't see what the timing is like between an A and a B.
That's right. So that would be good to have. But like I said, kailangan mas ma-pin down muna natin yung supply schedule. We're hoping that the list itself will be approved on Monday. Monday magpe-present ulit kasi ako sa IATF. Yan. So
after let me ask a controversial question.
Yes.
So where is it really in terms of private sector companies buying the vaccines themselves? What's the real story now?
Yeah, supposedly it's already it's already allowed under the recent law, no? But it's still via tripartite with agreement with the national government, kasi nga naka-emergency use authorization pa siya.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the contracts that some of the private companies have entered into can actually happen.
Dapat kasama yung government contracts na yan.
This was under the umbrella of the Joey Concepcion Initiative, where there was a 1-to-1 donation as well. Okay, so that's great to hear. The other thing is it's really big thanks to all. This gives some hope to the situation. So it's really important that we provide that kind of information also to provide some positive thing. You mentioned B1, you mentioned teachers in B1. So the question is, and the news came out already that there are plans that face-to-face learning will come back in the start of the next school year. What do you see about that?
Actually, not even start of the next school year. Mukhang second semester.
Okay.
So not even it's also in kind of timed also with their B1 schedule.
Right. So it's aligned again. Again, it goes back to some teachers actually saying, I'm not going to go back face-to-face unless I've been vaccinated. So the timing actually works. Yun na siguro kailangan makita rin natin. Maybe we should see a timeline to relate to those. Because we get, as was commented earlier, we get the information in silos and they're not connected. So we don't really get to appreciate what the overall plan is. Question here. There's a shortage of semiconductors and nickel globally. How is the Philippines playing in this market? And how is government supporting these businesses to be globally competitive?
Yeah, actually, we're hoping that really the semiconductors will be one of our drivers, no? Especially since alam namin magkakaroon talaga ng malaking demand globally for this one.
Yes.
First of all, there's the create na hopefully malaking boost ang ibibigay sa kanila nito. And then of course it continues to enjoy incentives kasi kasama talaga siya sa strategic na incentive priorities. Also under the create makakasama kasi siya doon. So nandun 'yon. Now in terms of the workforce that can be that can be absorbed by this that can work for the semiconductors, malaki rin ang efforts ng TESDA and also actually the DOLE and DTI are also conducting lots of mga digital skills training for this.
There you go. So that's the other aspect about the Recharge PH that you mentioned, right? Participate in reskilling or retraining programs. So we'd love to hear what specific areas the private sector, again, can help in terms of reskilling or retraining. Because that I think that will help a lot in terms of I think we've reached that stage where a lot of us in the private sector, especially the professionals, are feeling, okay, we can't continue to be helpless.
Correct.
We want to do something.
Yes.
Right? Can I ask a controversial question? The last few days, a lot of talk has been about all the loans that the Philippine government has been taking in relation to the current pandemic crisis. What's happening to all that money?
Ang tawag nito? Napirmahan pa lang siya, wala pa naman yung pera. Actually, some of them hindi pa rin naman. Kumbaga, we have proposed it, but there's still that approval process at the World Bank and at the ADB. So hindi pa naman ganun kaagad 'yan, no? So
people don't really understand it, no? So they read that the loan was approved, akala nila nandiyan na yung pera. So they're asking already what happened to the money, right?
Yeah. And some of these are actually earmarked for the vaccine.
So this 20 million per month that we're looking at.
Yes. That is yun ang kailangan mo na ng vaccine supply to be able to pay for this. That's
one of our participants is already saying that he's now involved with many others in discussing to implement improvements in the agriculture sector. One key is that the COVID issues are not considered now, so we can focus on what needs to be done rather than what cannot be done. Thank you very much. That's really very important.
Yes, thank you.
Related to that, in terms of agriculture, there was really a frustrated question that was said to me earlier. We have seen farm produce such as vegetables and fruits only rotting and wasted even during the pandemic.
Correct.
Why can we not solve this problem of wastage? Is it supply chain that's the issue?
It's supply chain. Supply chain siya. Ang problema rin kasi natin, again, early on, this was, I think, May or June of last year, no? NEDA had this initiative with the DTI and USAID assisted pa nga ito, yung SCAN. Supply chain analytics, and it's a dashboard, and it's really to help itong it works like the Waze. So we provide the basic data with respect to supply restrictions, and then pero dapat kasi maraming magsa-sign in, syempre magre-register, and then add also their observations as to ito nagigpit, nagkaroon ng additional restriction, mga ganon. Yun ang kulang. So the system is there pero hindi masyadong maraming naging users, and so it's only as good as the number of users and how updated the data becomes, no? So yun ang kulang talaga natin. Masyado tayong hindi pa tayo ano ba to? Yung data savvy ba? Yun. Hindi pa tayo even with the Waze, no? Kakaunti lang yung kunwari na traffic ka. Do you really stop and report? Ganyan, di ba?
Correct.
Diba,
mahuli ka pa because you're not supposed to be using your cell phone while driving.
Yes.
Right?
So yun, actually that's another way. Siguro po pwedeng magkaroon ng app na voice yung voice activated lang yung pag-up Oh, yun. So that's actually for agriculture, it also needs to be more technology enabled, especially with respect to the supply chain. And so kaya ngayon ang naging parang stopgap solution, I think you've heard this, is the urban agriculture.
Yes.
Yun. So make sure na even urban areas, meron silang source of fresh fruits and vegetables para hindi lang tayo sardinas at noodles, no?
So yung mga plantito at plantita, stop planting the rubber plant at saka fiddle leaf. Rather, magtanim kayo ng pechay.
Correct.
Because then make what you're doing as plantitas and plantitas productive.
We have also enabled government and LGUs para magkaroon ng direct procurement to the farmers. Kasi hindi to allowed sa ating COA rules eh. But under Bayanihan 2, pwede. Na ipasok namin yon. But I think a more robust solution really is some technological solution to this one.
Correct. And two more quick questions. Like openness of the public in getting a vaccine. Right? That's another challenge. So you've got this rollout plan, which is a great rollout plan if we have the supply and then we do the rollout. But how do you now get the warm bodies into the room? Because you don't want to have another situation of a Mark Anthony Fernandez being able to get his vaccine because supposedly he's there as a substitute.
Yeah. Kasama pa rin yung substitute doon. Pero we are already looking at some studies. We actually have some data and kailangan na lang magkaroon ako ng oras para tignan. Para yan na lang siya. But overall, what's coming out is that 45% ang nagsabi na yes, they are willing to get the vaccine. Okay? 20% ang nagsabi na no, we will not get the vaccine. You have the 35% actually na unsure. So ito yung tinitingnan namin, ano yung pwede namin gawin para mapunta siya dun sa yes. Kasi even if we can only get that, the 45 plus 35, that's already 80%. Herd immunity ka na rin.
I'm actually curious about if we did the survey again next week, after this week's state of the last 10 days, 50,000 new cases.
Correct.
In the last week alone, right? 10 days alone. As against we've been doing 50,000 per month for the last 4 months. So I think if we did the survey again next week, baka yung 35 na unsure will shift towards wanting the vaccine because they're getting scared.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, we will have another survey conducted after the Holy Week.
Right. And sorry, I need to ask this controversial chismis question, but what's exploding right now in social media is ivermectin. I don't know if you've heard of that, right?
Yes.
I think the position is that they're cheap, available drugs. Why can't the IATF allow us to take it?
Yeah. Well, number one, the ivermectin that is available in the Philippines are the ones that are for dogs.
Okay.
But number two, titignan na rin to.
When I was scratching my back yesterday, I was using my right foot. That explains it. Thank you. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, so yun ang number one problem natin. But number two, the DOH will be looking into the ivermectin in the other countries. Yan. So kailangan muna kasi magkaroon ulit ng the trial, etc.
So but there are motions being done right now to look into that.
Yes.
Okay, great.
But first, have the clinical trial. I just don't know nga kung paano magiging mechanics kasi nga the ones we have now are for dogs. Yan.
Well,
wala pang FDA
what I see on social media is there's supposed to be a couple of doctors who are making it themselves, right? So I think that's a challenge, right? But
and then the FDA approval.
Correct. And then the ones they're also saying na the worst thing that can happen to you is you get dewormed. So wala kang bulate, so okay ka na. Diba? So
okay, magaganon ka.
Correct.
Ang garapata. I don't know.
Yusek Rose, this has been, I mean, I wish we had one more hour. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
very, very interesting. And there are like still 20 more questions that haven't been asked, but we're running out of time. And
Yeah.
we value, I know you're very busy. I think the weekend will be the only time for you to be able to take a break. So we'd like you to enjoy that. But one last question really
Sure.
goes back to what we can do. So we talked about technology, we talked about contact tracing, we talked about minimum public health standards, we talked about retraining, reskilling, right?
Mm.
Supply chain. So okay, we're private sector individuals. Who do we talk to say, hey, can we offer our services? How do we move this forward? How can we, you know, volunteer our services?
Yeah. You can talk to me. Or, syempre, kay Cabsec Nograles, actually, he's the
Mhm.
one who's been engaging with the private sector. I would also suggest that for those, I think you mentioned before that you are, you're working with an LGU, if I'm not mistaken. Then,
I'm with the DICT's Digital Cities program. So yes, with the LG, including Taytay. I just had a session with Taytay yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, they will really need help with respect to the vaccine deployment. Like I said, this is the first time we're doing this. Ano? For many LGUs, the first time na ganito, we're doing it, tapos ganito pa kagad kalaki. So, kailangan talaga ng tulong doon. Systems development.
I think that's a wonderful suggestion. Rather than try to tackle such a big animal, if you
Yes.
are from Pasig, why don't you go approach Mayor Vico and say, how can I help? If
Yeah.
you're from Parañaque, approach Mayor Olivares. So
Uh,
then it becomes very ground level and
yes.
can make a difference.
And then share with us your lessons learned para pwede nating ma-replicate in other areas. Yan. Kasi I'm sure this will be done in sequence, may hindi naman pwedeng all at the same time kasi in trickles din yung dating ng vaccine eh. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I pity also our LGU leaders as well, because I think they're under so much strain. And then you have a Guapings issue coming into the picture that complicates it. And then all the focus is on that one rather than anything else. So we we want to last comment. There are a couple of comments that I'd like to just share with everybody. The Philippine Contractors Association is implementing their 12-year roadmap despite the lockdown, even expanding their activities like remote supervision and data analytics.
Yes.
To address the pandemic limitations, because the build program must go on.
Correct.
Department of Science and Technology is also heavy into advancing research skills in various key sectors, right? So it's very, very interesting. Oh, by the way, Secretary de la Peña is a UPIE graduate. He was my IE professor, actually. So we are we're from the same hopefully the same blood.
And they have this Sparta project, ang DOST
that's
with
correct.
And that's hopefully to develop 30,000 ang ang pangarap nila na data analytics.
Correct. And maybe we'd like to hear from DOST what's happening with their VCO study, virgin coconut oil study.
Yes.
So I understand it's very interesting because there's a lot of efficacy. All right, Yusek Rose, thank you very, very much. I wish we could entertain all the questions. If you don't mind, I will email the unasked questions to you so that we can try to address them. At this point, I'd like to call back UPIEAA President Ricky Peña to just award a digital certificate of appreciation to Yusek Rose. Oh, I'm sorry. Job just corrected me. Secretary de la Peña is chemical engineering, not industrial engineering. But he was my industrial engineering professor. Ricky?
Okay, well, in behalf of the UPIE Alumni Association, we'd like to thank you, Yusek Rose Edillon. It's a fantastic session that we had, and this is something that just do not benefit us in the UPIEAA. I believe it benefits a lot of other people, all the stakeholders in this situation that we're all in. I hark back to what you said, that we need to think of more efficient ways, no, to solve our problems. And I just would like to say that that is the embodiment of industrial engineering. No? So, as Jom has mentioned, we definitely would like to help any which way we can. I would like to present a certificate of appreciation from the UPIEAA to you. And let me just read it. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to Rosemarie Edillon, Undersecretary of NEDA, National Development Policy and Planning, for her invaluable contribution as keynote speaker at the 2021 UPIEAA organized webinar series on the topic, The Philippine Recovery Roadmap, What We Need to Know and What We Can Do, held on the 27th day of March 2021 via Zoom, signed by myself and Jo Marie Mercado. Again, thank you very much, USEC Rose.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Yusek Rose, from Aguaping to you. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you to all our participants in today's webinar. We will be sending all participants an evaluation form via the email address that you gave to us. Kindly help us by providing us your valuable feedback. Those who wish to get a copy of the materials used today, after editing, of course, by Yusek Rose, must accomplish this form. Okay? Also, please like our official page at the UPIEAA Alumni Association on Facebook to know more about our upcoming events. If you like this webinar, we have more lined up for you in the near future. There's already a petition going around to have part 2 with Yusek Rose. So we'll find out if we can get her to spend her Saturday morning with us again. So thank you very much, everyone, for participating in today's event. Again, I am Jo Marie Mercado. It's been my pleasure for being your host today. Have a pleasant day and please stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.